Exodus 32. My apologies if you didn't catch what I was saying. I forgot to put the mic back on. Exodus 32 from verse 1 to verse 14. Now when the people saw that Moses delayed coming down from the mountain, the people gathered together to Aaron and said to him, "Come, make us gods that shall go before us. But as for this Moses, the man who brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we do not know what has become of him." And Aaron said to them, "Break off the golden earrings which are in the ears of your wives, your sons and your daughters, and bring them to me." So all the people broke off the golden earrings which were in their ears and brought them to Aaron. And he received the gold from their hand and fashioned it with an engraving tool and made a molten calf, or a molded calf, Then they said, "This is your God, O Israel, that brought you out of the land of Egypt." So when Aaron saw it, he built an altar before it, and Aaron made a proclamation and said, "Tomorrow is a feast of the Lord." Then they rose early on the next day, offered burnt offerings and brought peace offerings, and the people sat down to eat and drink and rose up to play. And the Lord said to Moses, "Go get down, for your people whom you brought out of the land of Egypt have corrupted themselves. They turned aside quickly out of the way which I commanded them. They've made themselves a molded calf and worshipped it and sacrificed to it and said, 'This is your God, O Israel, that brought you out of the land of Egypt.' And the Lord said to Moses, 'I've seen this people, and indeed it is a stiff-necked people. Now therefore let me alone, that my wrath may burn hot against them, that I may consume them. And I will make of you a great nation.' Then Moses pleaded with the Lord his God and said, 'Lord, why does your wrath burn hot against your people, whom you brought out of the land of Egypt with great power and with a mighty hand? Why should the Egyptians speak and say, he brought them out to harm them, to kill them in the mountains and to consume them from the face of the earth? Turn from your fierce wrath and relent from this harm to your people. Remember Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, your servants, to whom you swore by your own self, and said to them, I will multiply your descendants as the stars of heaven. And all this land that I have spoken of I give to your descendants, and they shall inherit it forever.' And so the Lord relented from the harm which he said he would do to his people." Tremendous passage. It leaves a great challenge in our hearts concerning our prayers. The effectual, fervent prayer of a righteous man or a righteous woman avails much. That prayer which is in Lord. And in the margin of the verse where it says he pled with the Lord, he pled with the face of the Lord. And he had a tremendous time of prayer. But what caught me in this passage and in the chapters that follow on is how much like the Lord Moses is. How much like him he is. We read in this particular chapter in the reading that he prayed for his people. In a later part of the chapter it says that he gave himself for his people, and then later on he entered into glory for his people. So you can see the way I'm going to go with this little sermon that we've got, and I trust it'll be of some value for us. In the Epistle of Peter, it speaks of the prophets who spoke in former days and had that Spirit of Christ which was in them. And the Spirit of Christ which was in them in those early days before the New Testament did signify both the sufferings and the glory of Christ himself. And here we have a wonderful picture of Moses replicating or foreshadowing the life and ministry of Jesus. We find it so easily in the life of Joseph. We can look at Joseph and pick out so many points. I remember reading of one quite well-known preacher who had about 45 points that he reckoned were linked in between Jesus and Joseph of the Old Testament. Whether that's the case, I don't know. Sometimes we have to be careful that we don't go looking for too much. I think sometimes we just want to add to things, just to increase. But he claimed to have 45 points or more. But Moses is so much like his master. As ever, I'm reading a book. It's an autobiography of a lady called Maria. And the book is called Of Whom the World is Not Worthy. She marries a man 30 years older than her, Jacob Kovach, and he's like a modern-day Elijah through the Second World War. And he talks of how he would go from house to house during the war days, and went into this one house, and there was tremendous bitterness there. You remember in Yugoslavia there were the Serbs and the Croats and all the Ustasi and all the different ones that they had, the different groups, and they were vicious to each other. Still spoken of today, the absolute viciousness. We saw it in the 90s as well, didn't we, in Sarajevo and the countries and provinces of Yugoslavia in those days. And he was so angry. He said the church will kill a man and then cross themselves and ask for God's blessing. And Jacob turned and said to him, if I was to put on your coat and put on your shoes, and then to go out into another neighbour's farm and steal some cattle, would it be you that's stealing them? Or it would be someone who's pretending to be you, having the right clothes that fits in? Surely you'd be arrested. And over a period of time, this is what Jacob argued with him. In fact, I think over quite a number of years, he went toing and froing to see this man who was so bitterly enraged against the church. And finally, he led him to Christ. And he turned and said, this old man, turned and said to Jacob, after he'd been so bitter, he said, Jacob, you wear the coat of Christ well. What a wonderful way to speak. What a wonderful testimony. Oh, some lovely, lovely testimony. Enough to make you cry. Enough to make you wonder what man will do with man. No wonder David said, Lord, above everything else, don't let me fall into the hands of men. I'd rather you pick me up and throw me about than anybody else if it's going to be some judgment. And so we read of Moses that he was so much like his master. You ever met anybody like that? So much like their master. Have anybody ever said that to you? You just seem to reflect something about the qualities of Christ. Well, Moses, we read of him, verses 7 to 14, he prays fervently, prays about the past of his people, speaks of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, prays about their past, he prays about the present day that they're in, and then he prays about their future. And in this intense prayer that he has, we don't know how long he was there for, we know that he was up on the mountain for 40 days, but this particular prayer, was it a prayer that just contained the words of Bhagavad-gita? Sometimes we want to open up our prayers, don't we, to increase the time that we've been praying. Flower them a bit and all those different things. He's direct into the presence of God, pleading with him face to face. It says a little later in one of the chapters, it said, Moses spoke to God as a man would speak to his friend. A wonderful testimony now. Does he feel distant here? Does he feel far off? You can speak with him as you would speak to your friend. You can be so close. Well, the wonder of it all, verse 14 says this. Upon hearing the prayer of Moses, this is what it says. And so the Lord relented from the harm he said he would do to his people. A wonderful thing. Prayer changes things. It's the old format that we've heard for years, but prayer changes things. And so we read of Jesus that he too prayed. He prayed for the disciples. In John 17, he said, I do not pray for the world, I pray for them. Them comes up an awful lot in the Bible, them and those. I do not pray for the world, I pray for them. Later on in the same chapter, I do not only pray for them, but I pray for them who will believe on their word. And so we see these effectual prayers. Reading through this book of whom the world is not worthy, and seeing people in such desperate need coming to Christ. And you see the prayer of Christ being answered. I don't just pray for them. I pray for those who will hear their word and believe. We go on to find out. Luke tells us that when they crucified him, then Jesus said, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. We find one of his ministries in the chapter of Isaiah 53. It's Trudy May's favourite chapter, and she asked when we had communion this week, would I read it to her again? She'll sit and just listen to it and go through the different verses that she knows so well. But in Isaiah 53, the very last comment said, he made intercession for the transgressors, for the wrongdoers, those who knew it was wrong and still did it. That's what a transgressor means. Doesn't mean an accident. It means those who know it's wrong and yet still do it. He makes intercession for such. And so Moses is so much like Jesus, so much like his master. He prayed for them. And so we find and move on in the account that we have, that Moses in chapter 32, verse 31, says this. He's come down from the mountain now, and he's praying not back up on the mountain. He's come back into the tent of meeting, or his own house in actual fact, or his own tent. And verse 31 says this, Moses returned to the Lord and said, these people have committed a great sin and made themselves a golden calf. Yet now, if you will forgive them, but if not, I pray, blot me out of your book. That's an astonishing prayer, isn't it? The hymn writer picked it up, no doubt, and said this, there was no other good enough who could pay the price of sin. But we see with Moses a willingness not only to pray for them, but to give himself for them. I pray that you will forgive them. But if not, blot me, I pray, out of your book, which you have written. We find it with Paul, don't we? That he says similar words. I could wish myself a curse for my people, the children of Israel. Astonishing that is. Astonishing that we find. And so we read of Jesus, that we read concerning him in the New Testament. Christ loved us and gave himself for us. See, it's that same spirit again. We're looking at the second coming tonight, and we'll find what is the first of all signs. But the thing is, the first of all signs are there all the way through, right to the very end. It's the same sign that's there every single time. We'll have a look at it tonight. And here we find with Jesus that he loved us and gave himself for us. He was so willing to do that. Oh, the love that drew salvation's plan. Oh, the grace that brought it down to man. Oh, the mighty gulf that God did span at Calvary. Mercy there was great, and grace was free. Pardon there was multiplied to me. There my burdened soul found liberty at Calvary. Oh, what giving is this? We talked in the hymn that we had, the final verse, since from his bounty I received such proofs of love divine, had I 1,000 hearts to give, Lord, they shall all be thine. In number 161 of the wondrous cross, the last verse, were the whole realm of nature mine, that were an offering far too small. Love so amazing, so divine, demands my soul, my life, my all. That's where we think of ourselves, giving ourselves to him. He has given himself for us. What manner of love is this? What incredible love. And yet we find it in that tent meeting that Moses had with the Lord. Forgive them. But if not, then blot me out of your book which you've written. Such love there, such passion that we find with Moses. But he was never going to be good enough, was he? In the book of Revelation, we find when the Lamb steps forward to take the scroll, a cry has gone forth to draw his attention. Who is worthy to take the scroll and to open the 7 seals? And it says, and no man was found worthy. No man in heaven, no man on earth, no man under the earth or in the sea was found worthy. And the writer says, I, John, wept much, for no one was found worthy. But a champion comes forth that can take the scroll. And a champion came forth at Calvary for us, who gave himself for us. We could never give enough. But Moses had that same spirit that followed in the footsteps of the Master. Finally, we told in Exodus 34, we told that Moses rose early in the morning. We know Jesus, he rose early in the morning as well. But Moses rose early the next morning and went up onto Mount Sinai. And as he went up, it says, and the Lord descended in a cloud and stood with Moses there. He prayed for them, he gave himself for them, and he entered into glory for them. And so we find concerning Moses, he reflected so much of Christ his Master. Pointers to tell us of one that would be able to pray, not just as a one-off, but make intercession for us forever. One who would give himself for us, whose death would not be denied, but accepted. And here one who would now enter into glory for the sake of his people. The cry had gone from heaven to earth, my presence shall go with you. That's the promise that was given. And Moses went up into the Sinai, that he might enter into his glory, that he might bring assurance to the people that God was with them. We read of Christ. I think possibly the most enthralling chapter in his whole ministry, that time when he left the earth and went into heaven. Therefore Christ, being exalted to the right hand of God, and having received from the Father the promise of the Holy Spirit, has shed forth this which you now see and hear. He went up into glory, and he sent back the glory of God into the hearts of the people. You say, well, it says Moses' face shined. Where does it talk of Jesus' face shining? Well, as we find out as we go through the second coming, he is coming on a day when every sun and star will have a curtain drawn over itself. And the whole of the universe, the whole of creation, will be lit up from the light that is in the Son of God. But we'll stick with this one. For Paul picks up Moses coming down from the mountain. He says at the end of the chapter that his face shone as it irradiated the glory of God. He'd been up there so long. And as he came down, the sad thing is this, the New Testament tells us that this glory was already fading. It was already fading. But the Spirit that God gives in the New Testament doesn't fade. Change from glory into glory, till in heaven we take our place. You'll finish off at some point or other. Not a glory that fades, but a glory that endures forever. Moses prayed for them. Moses gave himself for them. Moses went into glory for them. Christ prayed for us. Christ gave himself for us. Christ entered into glory for us. What a blessed Savior we've got. A Savior that even with Moses, after he senses and meets with the glory of God, loses his rag and temper. And so we find that he can't even enter into the promised land. We don't have a God like that. We have a God that remains true and faithful to the very end.